graphing relations and interpreting these graphs of relations, it's really important to understand what these graphs are actually telling us. So what we want to do is make sure when we look at these graphs, we know what is being compared. So the first thing we want to do when we look at these graphs is we want to compare the two quantities being compared or related, and we look on the y-axis. In this case, it's the distance from home versus time. Okay, so what are the quantities being related are the distance from home and time, and that's going to be the same for all these graphs. So this is really important to kind of understand the context of the relationship that you're dealing with. So when we take a look at these graphs, we can come up with some scenarios for these graphs. So if we took a look at graph G, okay, taking a closer look at graph G here, it looks like it's going up, flattens out, and goes down like that. So how we can describe what's happening in graph G is at part A, what we can say is that the person is moving away from home quickly. So here's home, and it's moving away. And then since the slope of this is quite steep, it looks like it went quite a distance in a short amount of time, so it must be moving quickly. At B, here, nothing is going on. The distance from home is remaining the same as the time changes. So what's happening here is that they're standing in one spot and not moving at all in B. And the scenario that might describe what's happening in part C here is if this person is moving closer to home, going back to home, but it's not going as quickly as they were moving away from home here. So the slope of this is less, but it is going back towards home. Now, graph H is actually a problem. Okay, let's take a look at how we would describe this. So we have part A here, part B is vertical, and part C is here. The slope of part A and C looks to be about the same. So, looking at graph H, so we can say that the part A, he's moving slowly away from home. Okay, that kind of makes sense. They're moving slowly away from home. B is the problem. Because what's happening at B? Well, he's right here, he's kind of moved to this point, he's maybe like 50 meters from his house. And all of a sudden, instantaneously, he's now 100 meters from his house. He's kind of somehow teleported further from home. Okay, that essentially is impossible. Okay, and this vertical line really is a problem on a graph. And in fact, if we think back to our vertical line test, well, this definitely does not pass the vertical line test. This is not a function. Okay, so this vertical line indicates it's not a function. And there's a problem when we start dealing with having these vertical lines in graphs. They're actually not possible when we're talking about some function. Okay, because it's impossible somebody all of a sudden be simultaneously at 50 meters, all the way to 100 meters away from home in all those different distances all at once. Really, that's not possible. But if we were to describe the rest of it, then he's just kind of moving away at the same rate as he was moving away from home here. At part A, part C is really the same. Okay, moving on to the next graph, I, looks like he's going up, going back home, and keeps on going. But this slope here is not as steep as these slopes here. So it looks like these ones are going faster. So how we would describe A is, or part A is moving slowly away from home, and then he turns around and goes back home quickly. Okay, because the angle or the slope of this is steeper than this one. And then he turns around again and he's moving away from home. Okay, at the same speed as he was in part B. And then lastly, the last graph really is just a steady walk. He's back home. Okay, nothing's really changing, just moving at the same speed all the way home. That one's kind of boring. So these are some ways we can describe these graphs. Now there are other ways you could have done this, so that you could have come up with different scenarios here. But essentially we want to kind of understand how to interpret these graphs. And one thing I really want to make, and that's why I highlighted in yellow here, is that we really should be concerned about this vertical line. Okay, because number one, it doesn't pass our function test. Okay, it doesn't pass our vertical line test, and This vertical line is really hard to explain in real life.